begin by thanking all of you for coming today. I know you come to the Senior Center very, very often. So many familiar faces. And we have a lot of guests today. And I think that just the volume of people, you know, seniority does not give you the privilege of speaking when you're not supposed to, Mr. Gaeta. You know I'm teasing you, Joey. Joe Gaeta is one of our staff people in the Senior Center. Give him a wave. Joe also plays and teaches pickleball at the young, ripe age of 96.
God bless.
Isn't that awesome?
Unbelievable.
So you know just how special our seniors are to all of us here in the town of Islip. And I think the fact that the DA himself came here today with his crackerjack team, and we have so many of our team members here to show their support. We have our Commissioner, Tom Owens, Deputy Carol Charchalis, our Public Safety Commissioner, Tony Prudenti, and his Deputy, Rich Bastidas, and our Commissioner of IT to make sure everything was working well. Doug Miller is here. The whole team is here. We really, really do care. This is a very serious issue, and it's getting worse and worse with people scamming seniors. And I've had people come up to me, a gentleman who's a senior, and said, damn it, every time I get these phone calls and these crazy things they're saying, you got to do something about it. Okay, so, you know, I got to do something about everything, but the best way to do something about it is to bring our DA here, Ray Tierney, who has done an incredible, incredible job for us here in the county of Suffolk. In his short tenure of a year and a half, things have changed dramatically in law enforcement because of the DA and his experience and his efforts, and quite frankly, his caring about everything, his caring about the people of this county, especially our seniors. So without further ado, I have a list of people here that he has brought. I don't know, do you want me to introduce them or okay, I will. So let me just quickly first recognize the Bureau Chief of the DA's office, Nancy Kwan. Where is she? Nancy keeps it all running. We have ADAs, Assistant DAs, Jennifer Melito and Blythe Miller of the Financial Crimes Bureau. From Suffolk County Police Department, we have two detectives, Thomas Gabriel and Tom Monaco. So they're all going to be very much engaged in helping with this presentation. But now I want you to hear from the man himself, my good friend, Ray Tierney, our Suffolk County District Attorney.
So I just want to thank Angie. I want to thank Angie's great team for putting this together. We're delighted to be here. I think this is very important. One of the initiatives that we did that we're really happy with is we did a quality of life initiative with our great town supervisors like Angie. And what we're really doing is we're trying to address quality of life issues that arise in all of the towns, and who would know better about those issues than folks like Angie and her team. So we work really great together with them, and you know, we think it's a great program. But you know, the thing that specifically brings us here today is one of the things that shocked me when I became the district attorney is how these fraudsters are really targeting our elderly communities to try to scam them out of money. So we put together Lucy Kwan, our bureau chief, wherever she went. She's like a smoke.
Gazelle.
She put this together with Chris Clayton, our executive, and we have Blythe Miller, and we have Jen Melito, who are our assistant district attorneys who do these cases. So they're going to give you some great information. We have Tom Monaco, we have Tom Gabriel. We have a great partnership with our Suffolk County Police Department. These guys are really great. They really know what they're talking about. So they're going to give you a lot of really great advice on how to keep your finances safe and how to prevent yourselves from being scammed. And I'll tell you, this is an issue that is near and dear to my heart, because I can tell you it happened to my family before I became DA. And so I'm going to tell you a little story just to show you how it happens. And in order to, you're going to have to learn something a little bit about my family. So I have a daughter named Caitlin. She went to the University of Albany. And my father-in-law, she would call him Poppy. And they were both on Facebook, and they were always talking or communicating back and forth on Facebook. So one night, my father-in-law is home, and he gets a call from somebody who says he's the detective in Pittsburgh. And he says there was an accident involving his granddaughter, Caitlin, and that there's damage, and the car has been impounded, and it looks like Caitlin might have to spend the night in jail unless someone could pay the impound fees. And now he's going to put Caitlin on. So now a terrified young lady gets on the phone call, identifies herself as Caitlin, says, "Poppy, I'm so scared. Please don't tell Mom and Dad. A classmate of mine from the University of Albany passed away suddenly, so I wanted to go to the wake. I didn't get a chance to tell Mom and Dad, so I took the car without telling them. Now here I am in Pittsburgh. I got into this accident. I'm in all this trouble. They're saying I might have to spend the night in jail. Please, Poppy, help me, help me." So what does he do? He says whatever he needs, right? So they say, "Look, what we can do is if you go to Best Buy and pay for some cards, that's the best way to do it. Some gift cards, and then we could pay the impound fees." So what does he do? He runs to Best Buy, he pays the impound fees, right? Then he comes back, gets another call, says there's a little bit more damage. We need more Best Buy. So he goes right back out, does it again. Now at this time, the manager at Best Buy sees my father-in-law, sees his state of mind, and he asks him, he says, "If you don't mind me asking, why are you buying these cards?" And my father-in-law tells him, and the manager, thankfully says, "You know what, do me a favor, call your daughter. So he calls the daughter, and sure enough, it was all a scam. It was all a scam. My daughter was home the whole time. And, when I talked to my father-in-law was a very successful guy in business, very smart, and smart up until the time he died about 2 years ago. But a very smart guy, never lost any of his, always handled his finances. But he loved his granddaughter very much. And he told me, "Look, I kind of thought it might not be on the up and up, but I promised my granddaughter I wouldn't say anything. And even if there's a 5% chance or 10% chance that I could help my granddaughter, and it's going to cost me a couple of $1,000, I'm going to do it because I love my grandkids." So really, what they do is they all the great things that our grandparents and our elderly, all their greatest qualities, the greatest, of course, being their capacity to love their families and their grandchildren. They try to turn that against them and use that as a weapon against them. So that's why this is so important. I have that experience, but I'm not an expert like these guys are. We have Jen Melito and Blythe Miller who work in my office. They're wonderful ADAs, so they're going to tell you all about it. We got the Toms. They're fantastic. They are really fantastic at what they do, and they're going to tell you. And they have some literature for you guys to take home, for you guys to really protect your finances. So I ask that you pay attention. The one thing I would say is learn from my father-in-law, and the biggest thing is communication. If you have people you trust, if you have family members that you could rely on, and somebody calls you up in the middle of the night and wants money immediately, don't hesitate to reach out to that trusted person in your life and say, does this seem like right? Because if people want money in the middle of the night from you, it's always going to be a scam. It's always going to be a scam. But anyway, I don't want to steal their thunder, and they know more about this than I do, so I'm going to turn it over. Who's going to start? Okay, so Jen Melito is going to start. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Ray, for giving us the time and this incredible expertise. You're going to learn a lot. And I expect you to go home and share it with everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Carpenter and District Attorney Tierney. So this is a really important topic, as you have heard, and it's near and dear to my heart. I've been a prosecutor for 22 years, but I also have family members, and I was a caretaker to both of my grandparents during their senior years. So I feel like I have a unique experience with elderly. And we use that term a lot, but don't worry, elderly in the law means 60 plus, so it's just a term of law. So senior and elderly are synonymous. So when we speak about financial exploitation, essentially what it means is someone trying to take your money, your hard-earned money that you've worked so hard for all your life. It's either someone helping themselves to your income or stealing it. It could be your property, valuables. It could be bank accounts, investments. So you have to protect those properties. So there are statistics, and you know, based on longevity, I think women outlive men. So 92% of the victims of financial exploitation are women. There are other factors. You're likely to become a victim because of your age. It's not because of your finances, and I'm going to go into that in a little bit more detail, because you could sit here and say, I don't have a lot. You know, why would they come after me? I'm on a fixed income. But you're the perfect target, if you could believe that. So the other thing is, with elderly, you don't want to report because you have independence, right? So out of all the cases that we see, only 1 out of 24 are reported. So it's something that is very underreported. And you probably sit here and say, well, if something happened to me, I'm going to call the police. But there are circumstances, family circumstances, that would tend to have you not report these crimes. So what makes you the perfect victim? You're less likely to lose your independence. You don't want to be part of the judicial system, or you don't understand it enough. Your family always maybe says to you, you know, you probably should come live with me. And if you tell them what's going on, maybe you don't want to live with them. You want to live on your own. But if they feel that you've been a victim, they might want to take care of you, because that's what family members want to do. And like D.A. Tierney said, his father-in-law was an established person. We've all had careers, and we're smart. So sometimes we get embarrassed. But you know what? It doesn't just happen to the elderly. There's a lot of young people who get scammed as well. So elders are a preferred target because of your assets, your physical condition. You could be trusting. I mean, you've had a lifelong of experience. You could trust people. You've learned to trust people. And like I had said, a lot of people live alone. So it's hard to talk about this part of the presentation because a lot of people don't understand why the first person on this list could be family. But this is not to scare you away from your family. It's almost just to be cautious, because some people have good intentions and some people don't. So that is one of the people that we see that exploit their elderly family, is other family members. But it could also be the person that you go to at the bank teller who knows you, that you know, they have all access, and we don't even think about that person coming to exploit us. But that doesn't mean don't trust Millie at the bank. It just means be cautious. If something's not right, always speak to someone else. It could be a lawyer. It could be a real estate agent. It could be your accountant. And a lot of time when we get older, we have to have assistants come into the house, healthcare workers. You know, and a lot of people, they get a bad rep. 90% of the time they have good intentions and they're at that job because they want to help people. But there are people that will use that to their advantage to gain access to stuff that you leave on the kitchen table, which has your credit card bills or your bank statement. So being cautious would be just to put that stuff away. We're going to talk a little bit more about home improvement workers, and my colleagues are going to talk more in depth about strangers. But the other exploiter that I've seen recently is the new neighbor on the block that wants to help you. Just be cautious. Why do they want to help me? Why do they want to take me to the bank? Why are they telling me that they can go into the bank and not me? So how does this happen? So just by a small raise of hands, how many of you have heard of a power of attorney? So mostly all of you, if not half the room. So it's a legal document that gives power. You just have to remember, power of attorney. It gives power to another person to take care of your finances, and it could be a whole host and array of things. So they are a very useful tool that if you were to do something like that, you should consult an attorney and a family member. But you have to understand that when you're giving power to someone, you can limit that power. And I don't have enough time to speak to you about the ins and outs of a power of attorney, but just know that if you're going to give someone power, it can be limited. And there are other ways to have people take care of your finances other than a power of attorney. So sometimes very quickly, they are effective because sometimes we feel like maybe our memory is fading, but we still have our capacity. So if you had someone that you trusted get a power of attorney, and then you become someone that's incapacitated, they could still help you. But you can never, ever sign a power of attorney when you are incapacitated. It's a fraud. But if it's signed when you're incapacitated and the person that's presenting that power of attorney doesn't know that, they could take all of your assets. So you would be the principal and they would be the agent. So it would be a family member or a friend, but you should consult an attorney on that. And it always has to be for the benefit of the person that they're the power of attorney for. They can't help themselves to their own bills. They can't go above what you intended the power of attorney to be for, and they can't deviate from your expectations. They also can forge a power of attorney and have a power of attorney in your name when you never even had a power of attorney. So those are all things that you have to watch out for. So joint bank accounts, we're all familiar with those. The problem with the joint bank account is you can have a family member on a joint bank account, but they have as much access to the bank account as you do. So even if you put, let's say, $100 in the bank account and they put $5, their access is $105. So, and they don't die with the person, so that family member, even though you may have a will, can go to the bank and take all of your money out when that wasn't your intentions. So if you wanted someone to help you out, you can go to the bank and speak to them about a convenience account, which a lot of people are unfamiliar with. And that just gives the power to write out checks or go to the bank, but it dies with you. So that person cannot have access to that account after the death of the individual. So it's just something to think about and be aware of, because a joint bank account is very helpful, but it's not what people thought in the past. The person has as much access to that money as you do. So there's a really great thing in Suffolk County called the Homeowners Watch List. Is anyone familiar with it? No. Okay. So you can access it by phone or by internet, and it stands for, well, the acronym is HOWL. So they set it up because people were putting liens against people's property without them even knowing. So as we get older, we don't check things. You know, when you have had the house, possibly the house is paid off. So you think you have a deed that's free and clear in your name. So what you can do is you can sign up for this program through Suffolk County, and if anyone tries to put a lien on your house, tries to go to the county clerk with a new deed that is not in your name, they will alert you. So it's a very important tool, and you can see me afterwards for the phone number, but it's secure and it's with Suffolk County. I had a case in my career where two individuals gave a power of attorney to their stepson, and they also gave a life estate, which means that after they passed away, that child would get the house. Well, those were all good planning procedures, but he had mental illness that was undiagnosed, and he actually went to the county clerk and deeded the house to himself, unbeknownst to them. So then they had to start a proceeding because he was evicting them from their own house. So these are like just cautionary tales that you don't, like sometimes if you know a family member has your best intentions, but they do suffer from maybe a drug addiction or mental illness, sometimes they're not thinking clearly, so it's just something to watch out for. So home improvement scams. When people come to your door and they're uninvited and they want to help you, so I like old sayings. Have you ever heard the saying, a wolf in sheep's clothing? Okay, so these individuals, excuse me, I have to get some water, fit the part, and they tell you that you have to get something done right away. Oh, your driveway. Today I'm on your block, and if you get the driveway done today, it's going to be cash, and we're all going to be set. But, no, you can't call your daughter. We don't have time for that. You know, no contract. If I get a contract, I have to tell my boss, so we got to do it right away. Anything right away. Stop. Don't do it, because at the DA's office, we cannot prosecute someone who charges you more or does shoddy work if you accept their work, you know? So you have to be careful. So, you know, be careful of that. They have the suits on, they have the hard hat. That's what I mean. You know, we've had people who say, I have to come in, there's a water break on the block, and we have to check your meter. The other person, you go down with them to show them the meter, and they're upstairs stealing your jewelry. So no one's allowed in the house, right? Right. You call a family member. We see this a lot. And then they try to be familiar with you. Like, you'll tell them, your name is Marie. Oh, my grandmother's name is Marie. So they get that, you know, commonality with you. It's a scam most of the time. It's unfortunate for people who are just trying to make some money, but it is sad. These are the warning signs and that I spoke about. And like I said, it's not a crime to overcharge, so you can't call us after that, you know? And these are real cases of people who, that's not a real person who is going to do work. Investment frauds, we spoke about being careful investing your money. We have tons of cases where, you know, there's always an offer that's too good to be true, right? It's not real. So stop, speak to your family. Nothing's an urgency. If someone's soliciting you, 100% it's a scam. But you also have to be careful with people that you do invest in with. You have to make sure that they have your best interests at heart. And you should always talk to someone that you trust. And a lot of people, I know, don't have a lot of family members, but there's always someone that you can trust. So my colleagues are going to talk more about this, but I've had so many cases recently that it would behoove me not to tell you a little bit about my experiences. So this is a little clip I'm going to play from the FTC. Now, the FTC, the Federal Trade Commission, does not call anyone on the phone, but now they have people posing and they call everyone. And the one thing they do is they'll look up a real agent. So they'll give you Mike McDonald, and you'll look him up, and he's a real person, but that's not who you're speaking to on the phone. So listen, these things, you know, the home phone and who has a landline still? How many times do you get spam on that landline? It's
Every day.
right. Right. So those are the worst things we have in our homes right now. Right. What the DA is saying, they can, ever hear of artificial intelligence? So if I have a clip of my voice, they could take a clip of my voice and they can spoof it and call from a number that says Jen Melito and have my voice. So you'll think it's your daughter. And just, if you know that that's not how the number comes up and you, just hang up. Don't answer, hang up. I've tried to fight with them, it's not worth it. The more they keep you on the phone, the better for them. So don't keep them on the phone.
And also, when if somebody calls and pretends to be from the IRS, the caller ID will say Internal Revenue Service, Washington DC, but that's not true. That's false. They're just trying to trick you.
Yeah, the IRS will never call you. No one will ever call you from a government agency and tell you that you have to pay something. Nothing. So let's play this clip. It stopped working. You know, things always work when you try them in the office and then they don't work. I'm not sure. I'm just going to go over to the computer. Do you know why my video is not playing? No. Just put the Wi-Fi on? All right. Well, I've spoken long enough, and I know that I have my two colleagues. It was just a video that talks about individuals being scammed by the FTC, saying that they are from the FTC, and that the FTC will never call you. And these people, they call and say, I'm going to get, agent so-and-so on the phone. And then they put another person on the phone from the IRS or the FBI. It's all, and so many people think that they're in trouble because you know what they say? They say, your computer was on a child pornography site and you're going to be in a lot of trouble. Do you know that's a crime? I'm putting FBI agent Sullivan on the phone. You have to go to the bank. We have to secure your money. And it's all a lie. They can actually change the bank account numbers in your bank account to show that you have more money, that it was a mistake. It's all a lie. So if you have any problems, you can always call the DA's office and file a report. And speak to other people. Tell other people that weren't here about this because it's really important. Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much, Jen. Let's just switch over our PowerPoint. Okay. You gonna stay over there? Or? Okay. Oh, we have to actually hit play.
In the criminal justice system, the people are represented by two separate yet equally important groups: the police who investigate crime and the district attorneys who prosecute the offenders. These are their stories.
So we all know that that's the intro to Law and Order, and that's what makes this this part of the presentation really exciting. As we have two excellent Suffolk County Police detectives here with us. Tom, you want to introduce yourself?
I'm Tom Gabriel. I'm the younger of the two. So I've been with the police department. September will be 31 years. I'll start my 32nd year. I'm also an Army veteran, and I have 3 children in the military now. So please keep them in your prayers. Thank you. Thanks to all the veterans out there too. I see one with the hat. Way to go. Anyway, so 31 years in the police department, 21 years doing financial crimes, and I've kind of seen every possible scam there is. So I'm sure that there are going to be plenty of questions. We can hold them to the end, because probably a lot of these things we're going to answer. The district attorney's office is very supportive of the work the police department does. So we're going to talk in one of the next slides here after Blythe introduces herself, how these cases are a bit different than the regular cases that, your homicide cases or your robbery cases or your larceny cases. A little bit different, the identity theft and some of the more intricate financial crimes cases. So we'll go over that in a minute.
Tom, you want to say hi too?
I'm Tom Monaco. I'm a new detective. I've been a detective for 2 months. I'm new to the unit. I have a master's in finance, so kind of skipped a few steps to come to the unit. I'm learning a lot from Tom Gabriel, so if you have any questions, you probably want to ask him. But yeah, it's been great the past 2 months. I'm learning a lot. So I'm learning a lot from the crowd too. That's why I like to come to these presentations, because I learn a lot from you guys also. So.
And I'm Blythe Miller. Oh yeah. Give it up for that. They're like the good-looking ones, right? I'm Blythe Miller. I'm an assistant district attorney. I've been in the office for about 6 years total. I left for a little while and was doing some private insurance fraud work. And when DA Tierney was elected, I I was his intern back in the day. So I gave him a call. I said, hey, you remember me? Would you like me to work for you again? That would be great. And I've been in financial crimes working with this great team for about a year. So one thing that might be good to go over, since we talked about Law and Order, the TV show, is really what our roles are as, you know, the police and then as the prosecutor.
So these cases, like, okay, you see on TV, right? The cops chase the guy, they stop the car, they drag him out, they handcuff him, they get the kilo of cocaine, the AK-47 out, and then they go, hey, district attorney, there you go, prosecute it, right? So these cases are a lot different than that. These cases, we start working together from the very inception of the case. It's paper-driven, subpoena-driven, a lot of records that we need for this. So these are different than many other cases because the district attorney's office and the police department start from Jump Street together on the case. Now, that's great. However, what we have to explain to victims sometimes is these cases take a lot of time, okay? Law and Order, it's all finished in an hour. These cases, sometimes I have cases that I'm working on from 2018. Very, very long term, but that's why it's important for the district attorney's office and the police department to work together on them. But what we have to make victims understand is that these things take a lot of time. To put together a good, solid case that's gonna come, you know, with a good prosecution at the end, takes a lot of time. They're never, ever quick. So that's kind of what the difference is between what you see on TV and what the reality is of the financial cases that we work.
And our roles as prosecutors are in that pre-arrest stage are really to support our detectives. You know, Detective Gabriel mentioned subpoenas, you know, search warrants, things like that. We're drafting those. We're working hand in hand during those sometimes very long investigations. And then, you know, if all goes well, we build a great case, there's an arrest. And that's really when a prosecutor's work might be a little bit more like what you see on TV. Every once in a while, there's a trial. There might be hearings, there might be plea negotiations, and it's a lot of appearing in court. And that can also take a lengthy amount of time. You know, we talked about old sayings. If you've heard the wheels of justice turn slowly, I tell my victims they sometimes turn so much slower than you could ever imagine. But your cases are always on our minds. And if you ever have questions, I tell them, just call the office. I'm happy to talk to you. Yes, you have a question? So like so I missed the first part of it. You got a call, but you don't do anything with it.
Say on the phone or online, and you realize that, you know, it was a scam, even though you didn't get pulled into it. Should you have reported that?
I mean, I would say use your best judgment, because the reality is all of us are getting numerous scam texts, calls, emails a day. You know, and most of those, you know, might not even be coming from inside Suffolk County, New York, you know, the United States. And the reality is those things probably don't need to be reported. You just need to stay vigilant about them. So we're here, this part of the presentation, like referenced before, is mostly going to deal with identity theft. And we're going to go over what is identity theft, what can be done with your identity, how identity theft happens, and most important, what you can do to prevent it. And in the, you know, event that it does happen to you, because it is relatively common, unfortunately, what you can do to mitigate, you know, the consequences of identity theft.
So this is a pretty brief slide, right? We have all these things up there. I don't want to insult everybody, but I have a question. Which one of those is the most important? Social Security number, right? So if any of the veterans here, our serial number when I was in many, many years ago was your Social Security number, right? We used to stencil it on the outside of our duffel bags. So we were coming home, you had these big black block letters, you have the duffel bag, you're in the airport with 095, blah, 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 right? So that's the most important thing. So don't stencil your social security number on anything and carry it through any public place, okay? In the Social Security Act itself, it says, this number shall not be used as a mode of identification. They don't abide by that clearly, right? It is the premier and primary piece of identification for everybody, okay? On the old Social Security cards, right, now you get the Social Security card with the number on it, then you've got the perforation, you've got the other side with the instructions on it, right? You get that when you're a kid. Parents put it away somewhere. On the old ones, it used to say, keep this in your wallet.
Right.
The new ones say, do not keep this in your wallet. And why is that? If you lose or have stolen your wallet or your purse, and in there is your Social Security card with your driver's license, you have just handed over the keys of the kingdom, your financial kingdom, to the bad guys. So, Social Security number is what you need to keep guarded very closely. And a close second to that are other personal identifiers. That's credit card number, bank account number, any number or sequence of numbers that can unlock your financial assets. Okay? So if we pull some guy over and he's got a list of credit card numbers on him, we can arrest him for identity theft. Okay? So those things that are unique to you and your financial status, they're considered personal identifiers. But for the purposes of what we're doing here today, the number one thing is that Social Security number. Keep it guarded at all times. Do not give it out, and we'll talk about this a little later, but do not give it out unless it's absolutely necessary. You go to a doctor's office, there is no reason any longer to give the Social Security number to the doctor's office. Right? We all have our health cards, right? Whatever the health insurance is.
Every doctor asks for it.
So what you're gonna do, and what happens quite often is, they'll ask for it, you leave it blank. And you'll ask the receptionist or whoever, wherever you're at, why do you need that? And they'll say, well, it's on the form. That is not a sufficient answer. Okay? You do not have to put your Social Security number on there. If they're asking for it and they're really persistent, put your last four with a bunch of X's. Okay? There is no need for it. It used to be on there so that if you didn't pay your bill, the collection agents could track you down. That's what it was for. Right? That's what it was for.
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm getting ready to renew my passport. On the form, it asks you for your social security number.
Okay. Certain things,
Now,
like,
that is important to put, right?
absolutely,
You
yes.
have to put that.
The things like that, right. So your tax return, you have, certain things you have to use it for.
When you're renewing.
Those
your
things,
passport.
right, those things you don't have to use it for, here's the thing you remember. We tell everybody, prepare yourself to be a victim. Right? I know it sounds harsh, but it's the truth. But anytime you can minimize your stuff being out there, you've made it a little bit harder for the bad guys to do it. So, where it's necessary, obviously use it. Where it's not necessary, resist at all costs to use it.
So it's okay for me to put it on the renewal form? for my
Absolutely.
passport?
Well, for passport, that's how the State Department is gonna
I
identify.
just wanted to ask you that question.
That's it.
All right, so how, everybody always asks us, how can my identity be used to commit crimes? The first one is open new accounts. That's when I steal Tom Monaco's information, I call up, Bank of America, and I said, I wanna order a credit card, and I give all this information, okay? The second one is a little bit more difficult, but it's a little bit more effective. That's when I take over an existing account. That's when I steal Tom Monaco's information. I call up Bank of America and say, hey, I'm Tom Monaco, and I want to put my nephew, Tom Gabriel, on as an additional user on my credit card, and I would like that credit card to be sent to 123 Flatbush Avenue in Brooklyn. Right? And when you finally research 123 Flatbush Avenue in Brooklyn is, it's a mailbox, etc. place where you could have mail addressed to Daffy Duck, and they'll send it. Okay? So what happens now is that the credit card company sends me a credit card in my name under Tom Monaco's account. So now I have a legitimately, although under false pretense, a legitimately issued credit card from the bank that if the cops pull me over and they look at the credit card, it's got my name on it. Okay, and I got about 30 days or whatever that billing cycle is before Tom Monaco finds out I've been partying out in Vegas and he's responsible for the charge, right? That's how you take over an account, right? The next one, counterfeit checks. This is a major problem. There are two pieces of information that a bad guy needs to make a counterfeit check. Who knows what they are? Routing number and account number. They don't care, the bank doesn't care whether it's a New York Yankee check, a Disney check, whatever it is. They care about those numbers on the bottom, right? So I go ahead and I steal stuff out of your mailbox, and I find account number, routing number. I go to Staples, Office Depot, I buy QuickBooks, right? Anybody who's run a business, QuickBooks is accounting software. Put it in my computer, I get a nice printer, and I get check stock from Staples. And now what I do is I pop the account number, routing number in, and I make professionally looking payroll checks. Right? I recruit people to go and deposit in the bank, and you know the rest. So counterfeit checks are a major problem. The other thing on counterfeit checks are washing checks. That's when I steal your physical check that you're sending to PSEG or wherever. I have a solution. I wipe the numbers and name off of it. I write somebody else's information in there and a new amount. You know, the PSEG check that was for 220, I make it for 22,000, and then we cash it somewhere else. We're going to talk about how to kind of protect yourself from that. But that's counterfeit checks. Obviously, purchase merchandise, cars, or houses. The mortgage crisis in 2008, a big part of that was identity theft, where they had 5 people on one day. They would steal identities, and they would all close on the same house on the same day, right? Because they were pumping those mortgages out back in 2008. So that's another big one, right? And then obviously commit crime unit. So that's how they can be used. Any way that you use your name for something or your personal information for something, the bad guys can do the same thing. So that's why these crimes are easy to commit, because for anybody here, right, if I said, hey, let's go to 7-Eleven, here's a mask and here's a gun, let's go ahead and stick a gun in the clerk's face and take all the money, right? You're gonna be like, whoa, wait a minute, what's this? This is not natural for me. But if I say, hey, let's go to the bank and withdraw some money, we've all done that before, right? So it's natural for the bad guys. The only thing different between the bad guys and us is that they're using our names to do it. So they're very comfortable when they're doing these crimes because it's second nature to them, as opposed to going into a 7-Eleven and sticking it up, right? Does that make sense to everybody?
Yeah.
All right.
So then the question becomes is how can your identity be compromised? How can they take it from you? And there's several common ways that most of you probably already know some of these. The first we talked a little bit about is through victim assistance. That's that phone call you get. You know, hi, Mr. Smith, this is your Chase Bank and your account is locked and you need to give me all of this information right now. Or a text, you know, this is your Amazon account and you're out of funds and, you know, this thing you bought, we can't go through. Please give us all of your banking information. And then you, knowing that you have a Chase Bank account or an Amazon account, provide that information to the scammer because you think they need it. Now, the best way to avoid this is if you get any sort of unanticipated request, you know, via text, via email, via phone, don't provide the information without doing your research. You know, if Chase Bank calls you on the phone, say, you know, you can just hang up. You say, I'll get back to you, bye. And then go on your computer and Google Chase Bank and call, you know, a legitimate number. And if there's actually something wrong, then you'll find out that way. Another way that identities are compromised is, you know, your wallet gets stolen. Or, you know, you leave your purse on the checkout table at the grocery store. And, you know, other than vigilance to make sure, you know, your bag doesn't get grabbed if you're out and about, the best way to kind of mitigate this is don't carry around pieces of information with personal identifiers that you don't necessarily need that day. Obviously, we talked about your social security card, shouldn't leave your house, you know, don't keep it in your wallet anymore. But things like credit cards, if you know you're not going to use, you know, I have, you know, I'm a homeowner. I have a Lowe's credit card because I wanted that 5% off when I bought my snowblower. But if I know I'm not going to Lowe's that day, I don't need to bring that Lowe's credit card out of the house. So if you don't need to carry certain items, leave them at home. Theft of mail or trash. You know, we've seen scammers who will follow mail trucks around neighborhoods to grab your mail out of your mailbox. Something you can do about this is if you personally are mailing something out that might have personal identifiers on it, don't leave it in your mailbox. Bring it to the post office. You could have a locked mailbox at your house for your incoming mail. And if you're going on vacation and somebody is not going to be bringing your mail in every single day, just go to the post office, put it on a vacation hold so, you know, nothing's building up in there. With trash, you know, you can go to Walmart and get a relatively inexpensive shredder. And you should be shredding anything that you're going to throw away that has your personal identifiers on it. If, you know, a scammer's walking down the street on garbage day and they're going through your trash and they see, oh, you know, everything in here is shredded, they're not going to grab it and spend the time piecing it all together. They're going to move on to your neighbor who didn't shred their trash. So that's just another layer of security that you can have. Another way that identities are compromised, unfortunately, is by people with access. And this could be, generally when I say that, I mean people with access to you or your home. You know, a handyman comes into your house to, you know, fix your toilet and sees that you left your bank statement on the kitchen counter when they walked through that. Or you have a home health aide that, you know, is spending time in your home and they realize that your checkbook is always out on the kitchen counter. Now, I'm not saying, you know, you have to have people in your house to help you. Don't stop doing that. But just keep things with your personal identifiers put away. You know, put them in your filing cabinet. You know, don't leave things out where anybody could see them, even if it is in your own home. And another thing that we'll talk about later is called skimming. That's how sometimes scammers will get information off of your cards at ATMs or gas pumps, things like that. We'll go to that in a little bit. So what can you do to avoid fraud? You know, I've just given you a couple little tips, but these are the top 10 things. So if you take nothing else away from all of our presentations today, try and remember these top 10 things. It'd help if I didn't go on too fast. Now, 1 and 2 are kind of related to each other. Spot imposters and do online searches. That's what I was saying before. You know, if you think that something's not right, or even if it seems like it might be right, but you weren't expecting that call from your bank or from, you know, a company that you work with, just stop, pause, and do your research. You know, search phone numbers that come up. You can Google. I got a scam text yesterday that had my name in it. It said, "Hey, Blythe, you know, are you thinking," it had to do with something with my house that I am doing with my house. And I was like, but that's, and it was signed Mark. And I was like, I don't remember talking to a Mark about anything that's going on with this house. So all I did was I took that phone number and I Googled it, and it came up to a completely different name in a, you know, town on Long Island that I had nothing to do with. And I said, okay, I can just delete that. That's nothing real. So, you know, always take a pause and always, you know, go to your favorite search engine and do a search.
Okay, this was briefly spoken about before. Don't ever believe your caller ID. Okay? It's called spoofing a number. So when you talk about spoofing a number, I could be sitting in a hut in Bangladesh, and I could make it look like I'm calling you from Riverhead. Right? It's simply a computer program which masks the number. Like, have you ever gotten a number, you know, like you're getting these calls, and my cell phone is 516-509. It's coming from 516-509. I thought it must be my wife or whatever. You pick it up. That's spoofing a number. So why don't you ever believe your caller ID? Because the caller ID, let's say a scammer's calling you. When you first see that caller ID and it says United States Department of the Treasury, Internal Revenue Service, with an area code from Washington, D.C., that lends an air of legitimacy to that phone call before you even pick up the phone. But I'm going to tell you, never, ever, ever, under any circumstance, believe what's on that caller ID. Don't pick up the phone out of curiosity. We'll talk about that in a couple minutes. Don't pick up the phone out of curiosity. Don't believe what's on the caller ID. If it's important, they'll leave a message. right? Obviously, if it's a family member, you know what their phone number is, pick it up. But if you're getting a call from the Internal Revenue Service or from some offbeat police department somewhere, it's probably a spoof number and it's the beginning of a scam, okay? Again, remember, if you believe what's on that caller ID, it lends an air of legitimacy to what's going to occur next, right? Do not believe what's on that caller ID. All right, here's another one. Don't pay up front for a promise. Okay? This is like, and I have a case right now. This woman lost $330,000. So how does this apply? Hey, by the way, this is Publishers Clearinghouse. You won $15 million. So for you to get the $15 million, you have to pay the taxes and the administration fee up front. So what's the promise? $15 million. What are you paying? Taxes, administrative fees. Right? So $330,000 later, she's finally figured out it was a fraud. So little thing about Publishers Clearinghouse. If you win it, those annoying people are coming to your front door with that big card. They're not calling you, say, hey, by the way, you won, send me money. Right? So that's it. You do not pay up front for a promise under any circumstances. And again, this one here, consider how you pay. If you listen to nothing else that I say, listen to what I say about consider how you pay. If you have an IRS agent, if you have a Border Patrol agent, if you have a police officer, if you have somebody from Department of the Treasury, Department of the Interior, Department of Commerce, you name it, from a governmental agency, and you've gotten to the point where you believe them, and then it's time to pay up. They're going to ask you, scammers are going to ask you to pay one of three ways. If you're ever asked to pay in one of these three modes, right, that should send red flags, sirens, everything else off. This is a scam. Okay, remember, listen to nothing else. So the three ways they're going to ask you to pay is, one, go to the bank, take cash out, package it in this certain fashion, right? They're going to tell you, wrap it in a t-shirt, and then put newspaper around it, and then stuff it in an envelope and send it FedEx, UPS, or through the mail. Now, does anyone know why they're going to give you specific instructions on how to package it? They want to defeat the cameras or the x-rays that many of these packages go through. Okay? So number one, I remember as a kid, anytime you ordered anything out of a magazine, there was a little thing about it that says do not send cash through the mail. That still applies today. So if you get to the point where you believe that you have to pay the IRS, $20,000, and they say stuff it in an envelope, tell them to go stuff it. Seriously. So that's number one. Number two, they'll say, okay, we need you to do a wire transfer to some bank somewhere else. Now, I don't know about you, I've never done a wire transfer. Right? So anything they ask you that is completely out of what you do on a normal daily, day-to-day basis, it's nonsense. Okay? So if they say, hey, by the way, your grandson is arrested in Florida, and we need you to wire money to this bank in New Mexico, right? First of all, that doesn't make sense. But second, remember what I said, wire transfers. Cash in the mail, wire transfers, right? We got that. Cash in the mail, wire transfers. And the third one, gift cards, right? I don't even know how to use a gift card. So if they say, and whoever buys $10,000 worth of gift cards in one shot. So then they tell you to go to the store, buy the gift cards, but don't talk to anybody. Bring the $10,000 gift cards back home, scratch the back off, and read me the numbers. Now, it sounds completely ridiculous here while we're talking about it. But when you're in the throes of this thing, it becomes completely logical. Right? So please, remember those three things. Cash in the mail, wire transfers, and gift cards. And repeat this over and over and over again to your family and friends. If you get to the point where you're going to actually pay, and they ask one of these three ways, that should be the thing that tells you no good. Right? And number 6, talk to someone. A lot of these guys, what they're going to do is try to keep you on the phone. Right? They're going to instructions. They're so sophisticated now, is what they'll do is give you a script. Because many of the banks and even some of the drugstores or places where you go to buy gift cards, if you're buying a large amount of gift cards, they're gonna start asking you questions. So the bad guys will tell you, hey, listen, if the bank asks you this, this is what you say. And many times they'll keep you on the phone the entire process because they know the minute you speak to someone, the whole thing unravels, right? The whole scam unravels. So they're gonna be persistent about saying, do not speak to anyone. If your grandson's in jail and he's gonna go to jail for the rest of his life if you talk to anybody about this, right? That's what they're gonna say. So always talk to someone. All right, this is another big one. Hang up on the calls. I'm gonna tell you one thing, it's these scams. The longer, and this is a guarantee, the longer you engage with these people on the phone, the chance of becoming a victim rise exponentially. Okay? And I'll tell you why. Right? Every family, right? Let's do the jail, we call them the jail bail. When somebody calls, your grandson's arrested and you need bail money. Okay? And we know in every family, there's probably one kid that like, if anybody's getting arrested, it's probably him, right? Not a bad kid, but he's the one. So when they call up and say, oh, Mrs. Jones, your grandson is under arrest. Oh, who, Johnny? What have you just done? You gave them a piece of information, okay? And how this phone call is going to go for the next 10 or 15 minutes is they're going to extract little bits and pieces of information from you, repackage it, give it back to you, and by the end of that 15-minute phone call, you're ready to go down to the bank, open the vault, and give them everything. They're master manipulators. So do not stay on the phone with these guys. They're not only the master manipulators, they're bad people. And I'm going to give you an example. I had a phone call at work. One of these guys trying to scam me the other day, so I engaged him for a little while on the phone. And after about 5 minutes, I says, how does it feel that all you do your entire life is rip people off and steal from them? The guy laughs and he says, the lion's got to eat and somebody's got to do it. If I don't do it, somebody else will. So that's the people you're dealing with. They don't care about you. The only thing they care about is separating you from your money. So, do not get on the phone with them. It's almost like a drug. Don't take that drug the first time, because you may become addicted. And they're masters at this. And they play on loneliness, vulnerability, and love of your family. Okay? That makes sense to everybody. So, the main two things is, consider how you pay. Money in the mail, wire transfers, gift cards, and hang up on these people. Do not engage with them.
Another kind of smaller thing is, be skeptical about free trial offers, things like Publishers Clearinghouse. If it sounds like it is too good to be true, it is too good to be true. I play Mega Millions like everybody else. I really want to win the lottery, but it's probably not going to happen for me. And if somebody just called me up out of the blue and told me I did, I would be suspicious because it's just too good to be true. And a lot of these companies, if they're doing something with a free trial offer, they'll get all of your information, they'll get your credit card, and they will bill you every single month after that free trial ends, and you will never be able to figure out how to stop it. Another thing that you should never do is don't deposit a check and wire money back. And what that means is somebody will say, oh, I need to send this money somewhere, but I don't have a checking account. I'll write you a check, or I'll give you the money. Well, it's a check. I'll write you a check, and then you can wire it to this third party for me. And if you do that, that check is going to be counterfeit, and you're left holding the bag. So never, deposit a check and wire money, forward or back to that person. It's okay if you get a phone call or if someone in person is asking you to do these things. It's okay to be rude. I think, and this is especially to all the women in the room, that we're taught to be nice and polite and agreeable. It is much better to hang up the phone, be rude to these people, don't have anything to do with them. It's much better to be disagreeable and rude than to be a victim of identity theft. And if it's something legitimate and you accidentally are rude to somebody, they'll forgive you because they will understand why you had to do this. Just another recommendation we have is you can sign up for free scam alerts with the FTC, ftc.gov, /scans, and that will kind of keep you informed about, like we've said, these scams are changing daily. We get smarter, the scammers get smarter over and over. They see that people are catching on to the gift card schemes, so they come up with scripts to use, things like that. Scam alerts will keep you informed about what the latest scam of the day is.
Okay, internet security, right? We all use these phones or the computer. Never ever click on an email you don't know where it comes from, right? Because there's two bad things that can happen. One, you get these hackers that just like they make these malicious viruses. And they just love screwing people's computers up and burning their computer out. So they'll just send it out to see how much havoc they can create. So you click on it, next thing you know, your computer looks like it's one of those big, huge ones from like 25 years ago. That's how it's working, right? Slows it down, gums it up, it doesn't work as well. That's probably the least problematic of the two. The other one is, you click on a link that you don't know where it came from, and what they have embedded in there is called a keylogger program. So now that downloads onto your computer, and I can be sitting in my house, and I can now watch every keystroke you make remotely on your computer. So now I see 16 digits being typed in, right? Credit card number. Then I see you put the date, the expiration date, and then the 3-digit number, right? The CVV code on the back. I've now got all your information. So never, ever, ever click on those emails. Just delete them. Don't agree. If you don't know where they came from, don't bother. Keep your security software updated and use strong passwords. Anybody know what the two most common passwords everybody uses?
Date of birth.
That's two on, nope.
Date of birth.
1, 2,
1, 2, 3, 4, and password. Those are the two. Passwords, actually, they're password. So if we're telling you that, you'll think the bad guys know it. So don't use 1, 2, 3, 4 and password, because when they try to get into your stuff, those are the first two things they're going to use. All right? Wipe and destroy all hard drives. When you get done with the computer, just don't take it and put it out at the curb, when it burns out, and let the garbage man take it. We had a case a number of years ago where people were doing that. It was a crime group from a foreign country that were going around picking all of these computers up, taking the hard drives out, shipping them back to their home country, and then they had people downloading everything that was on those computers. Right? Because on that hard drive, whether it's on your phone or on your home computer, most everything you've done is still on that hard drive, right? So don't just let that go willy-nilly out there. And then finally, beware of social media and social networking, okay? Social media, I'm not a big fan of it. Everybody uses it, a lot of people use it, I'm not a big fan. So a couple of things. One, people on there, hey, look, me, my wife, and my kids, we're in Hawaii. We're having a great time. What if we just told every bad guy out there, nobody's home, right? So come on over, everything's free. That's essentially what you're telling me, right? The other thing that happens there is these bad guys data mine off of social media. So I'm gonna try to go and say, I'm gonna do a sweetheart scam on something. So I search through Instagram and Facebook. I thought, okay, this lady's a widow. She has 4 grandchildren. Different stuff, because you can glean all of that over social media. So now when I contact you on social media, I already have a really good idea of what your strengths are, your weaknesses, your family situation, and I start tailoring my conversations to you to kind of like fit. You put on there, oh, I'm big into horseback riding. So now when I contact you, I say, oh, you like horseback riding. So now all of a sudden I made all these connections with you, right? So be very careful what you put on social media. Very, very careful. It's something a little bit off topic. Tell your grandchildren. You want a job with the police department or any governmental job, when you go in for your interview, they're going to say to you, hey, give us your social media accounts. And if there's stuff on there that they're not proud of or shouldn't be seen, chances are it's going to impact their employment. Right? So I always tell my kids, if you don't want me seeing it, it should never be on there, right? Because unfortunately, we all do stupid things when we're younger. We don't need to archive it for the world to see, right? So be very careful with all of that. But social media is the bad guy's playground. They glean information from you on there, they find out whether you're home or not, and they also tailor their scams to certain people from what they get off social media. Skimming, we talked about that before. Anybody know what skimming is? So basically on your credit cards and debit cards, you have a magnetic strip on the back. Okay? So sometimes, gas stations, you can have a handheld skimmer. So you give me your card, I take it, I swipe it like this. It's got the same hardware that a credit card machine has, and I capture everything on the magnetic strip of your credit card, right? Sometimes they're on ATM machines. Sometimes they're on gas pumps. So, in the case of an ATM machine, I'm the bad guy. I come and I take this, right? You know the face, I call it the card door, right? When you stick your card in. They just fabricate something that looks like that. They stick it on there. Everybody that comes and uses that particular ATM machine, they've now captured everything on the magnetic strip of your card. They come back, they take it off, they plug it into a computer, and they have another thing called an encoder. It's about this big with a slit in the middle. They download everything onto their computer. They simply take any card now that has a magnetic strip on the back, they put it in this encoder, they hit a button, they swipe it, they've now cloned your credit card. Right? This happens quite often on ATM skimmers. Right? Anybody have an idea how they affix that thing to the ATM machine? Remember, I don't know if I said before, bad guys are lazy, right? Or they be working, have a job like everybody else. Double-sided tape. So here's a very simple tactic that you can use. You go to the ATM machine, you want to use the ATM machine, simply take that and shake that piece. If that piece moves, good chance there's a skimmer on there because that's a solid piece of plastic. Right there, where you put your card. See where the guy's hand is? That part there. Everybody understand that? Just jiggle it and see if it moves. Now, don't go there with a crowbar and see if it moves. Because you're probably going to have some other problems, right? But seriously, just go there and move that thing. If that moves, you probably have a skimmer. Go in and tell the bank manager you got a skimmer out. Anywhere you put your card, gas stations in New Jersey are notorious for this because everything is, you have to, the attendant has to pump the gas. Right? Some restaurants, anytime your card leaves your hands, there's a potential for skimming. Right? So just be careful. And what they'll do too, in the document holders, sometimes you see, I don't know so much anymore, but they'll put little pin cameras in there so they can sync up you typing in your PIN number with the debit card.
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
I used a couple of times GPay with my phone instead of this scan. Is there a way to scan that now?
I can tell you this, there's a way to scan everything. They've hacked NSA computers, the CIA's gotten hacked, the Veterans Administration, so everything is
I don't use that.
up for well, here's the thing, we can all use cash, right? But then you get mugged and all the cash is gone. So what you have to do is feel comfortable with what you're doing, right? And we'll talk about this at the very end, you have to be vigilant. You have to check your accounts. If you have the ability to have your accounts online, you can monitor them. I would say check accounts every day. Take 5 minutes. Go on there. Okay, all that stuff is fine. Good to go. Now, let me add one last thing. This is very important. The banking law. If something happens in your bank account and money's stolen, it's compromised, or whatever else, you have 60 days to report that to the bank. If you report it on day 61, the bank does not have to pay you back the money, even if it's determined it's a 1,000% fraud. So I'm going to give you an example. You have a CD, 5% CD, 5 years, it matures in 2028. Now, for me, what do I really need to check that for? I just know that it's maturing in 5 years and I'll roll it over again. But if that's a 50 $50,000 that I put into there, and then I look at it in 2027, and there's only $25,000 in there, and I go to the bank and say, hey, somebody got into my account, they go, well, you know, it's your responsibility. Is it within the last 60 days? Nope. Sorry, we don't have to give you money back. So, very, very important. It's in the banking law. Make sure that you monitor your accounts, even the ones you never use, at least monthly, so you can see what's in there, and if something happens, you can report it to the bank immediately. Everybody understand that? You have 60 days to report the fraud. If it's past that 60 days, the bank, by law, does not have to give you the money. Yes, sir.
You mentioned the checks. If you deposit a fraudulent check, can the bank tell you it's fraudulent, or do you have to wait for it to clear?
So what'll happen is the bank, certain amount of those funds will be made available right away, right? So the bad guy says, hey, deposit this check, for whatever reason, right? So you deposit it, and they say, okay, wire, it's a $5,000 check, let's say 2,000 becomes available within a day, 24 hours, whatever it is. You take that, then you wire that 2,000 out. Some point in time, the bank's gonna come back, the real owner of that bank account is gonna say, hey, listen, I've been defrauded, the bank will get back to you and say, hey, listen, we want the 5,000 back. We don't have 5,000 anymore because you just got rid of 2,000. Does everybody follow that? So, even if you have a counterfeit check, the bank is not gonna be able to tell you that immediately. Right? Sometimes they can, but if it's mobile deposit or deposit through the ATM, as long as it clears, or as long as there's funds in the bank where the check was written on, that money's gonna go into your account. But you're on the hook for it if they come up that it's a counterfeit check later on in the process.
Okay, just one quick.
Yes, ma'am.
Is the chip safer to use than the strip? You know, the.
Technically, yes, but I'll give you, and this is why I say they
Okay,
can
that's
always,
why I'm asking you.
yes. Back when the chips rolled out, I remember how many years ago, they had just rolled out, like within 6 months. So we're at a conference with the Secret Service, who does financial crimes when they're not doing protection for politicians, right? So somebody asked a question about the chips, and they go, yeah, they're better. However, they said, we detected a skimmer in Mexico that could defeat the chip 3 weeks after the chip cards were rolled out. So, just like I've been saying the whole time, the bad guys always find a way around it.
One step ahead.
They're always they're really good. So, they're always trying to separate you from your money. This is your responsibility. The banks, it's not their responsibility, it's yours. So make sure you're vigilant, and I can tell you, always check your accounts. The more you check them, and the more you're on top of it, say, hey, listen, this isn't mine, the better off you're gonna be.
So we talked a little bit before about like these text messages you might get. This text message was sent to one of my colleagues. It says, your Amazon account has been locked. We recently received multiple failed login attempts to your account. Recover your account immediately. Click the link below. Are you going to click that link?
No.
What are you going to do with that text message? Just delete it. Don't touch anything in it. Some common ways that people discover that they have been a victim of identity theft. The first, like Detective Gabriel is talking about, is you are checking your bank statements, your billing statements at least monthly, and you catch something right away that's wrong, and you know, yep, if you have the app and you can check it daily, even better. Stay on top of it. Maybe you get contacted by a collections agency, and you're surprised by that because you didn't have any outstanding bills. But the person that stole your identity did, and they just racked up a ton of debt, and now the collection agency is trying to collect it from you. Another common way that you can catch it a little more proactively is order your credit reports from the credit reporting agencies and check and make sure that nobody has been opening credit cards or taking out car loans under your name or under your social security number. And another common way that people sometimes find out is they go to buy something, go buy a car, or they go to take out some other sort of loan, and the loan gets denied because your credit is awful, and you say, well, no, it's not, and that's a common way to discover it. Now, we've got a couple slides about some cases that we've had in the Financial Crime Bureau. This one was from one of those jail bail cases handled by Assistant District Attorney Jessica Lightstone from my office. The jail bail scams are, someone calls up, your, that derelict, grandson, cousin, nephew got arrested. You got to help him out. What was notable about this case is the two victims both had something interesting happen to them. That's kind of illustrative of what these scammers will do. The first victim was kept on the phone the entire time. And I don't mean there was a phone call and they hung up. She was kept on the phone. She got the phone call. She was kept on the phone while she was in the car driving to the bank. They kept her on the phone while she was at the bank taking out the money. They kept her on the phone until the person came to her house and picked up the money from her. And the reason the scammers do that, it's designed to make you anxious. It's designed to keep you off guard, and it's designed to keep you from talking to somebody that you trust. So like I said before, if you think something's wrong, it is okay to take a pause, it is okay to be rude, and it is okay to just hang up the phone. The other victim was maybe a little savvier and tried to ask questions of the person that called. But what they asked was, okay, if this is legitimate, what's my address? And that wasn't necessarily a good question to ask because that information is publicly available and these scammers can have your address. So it's a good idea in theory if you want to test, but make sure you're asking something that only you and a close family member or that close family member would know and that you can't find out online. In this case, Port Jefferson family was told their son was in jail in a phone scam, and they nearly lost $15,000. However, these victims got suspicious when the scammer said that, we're going to come pick up the money from you. There is no business in the world that has that level of customer service, guys. Nobody is coming to your house to pick up cash. So when they heard that, they got suspicious. They FaceTimed their son, who was completely fine. So in this case, the scammers did not succeed.
This one here was a case that we had. It was one of those pop-ups, right? Come on the computer, Microsoft, and you got viruses and call this number. This started, we got a call from UPS that packages are being delivered to a house, and there's money in these packages, and we've got a lot of them. So we dressed one of our guys, one of our detectives up, UPS uniform, and we delivered a dummy box to the house. Once the guy took possession of it, we grabbed him, and he says, I just delivered to this guy in Nassau County. So we set the box up again, we followed him into Nassau County, we set up, guy came out, picked up the package, we grabbed that guy, did a search warrant at his house, get $174,000 in cash in the house, and when we got into his phones later on, he had wired out of these Microsoft scammers, one guy $2.1 million overseas. And he's just one of a number of runners, right? So a lot of these cases are internationally based. You have groups in different countries are running this. They have runners in this country, and that money's all going overseas. Right? So we do arrest people sometimes on these, and then they become these very, very long and intense investigations to try to work it up to the end user. We're talking millions and millions of dollars that these guys are able to do. You want me to talk about that?
Yeah, I think this was your case, right?
So, here's another thing, remember. Anytime there is a government rollout of these stimulus programs, right? The COVID, PPP loans, unemployment, remember the enhanced unemployment? You get your regular plus $600? Yeah. These guys, the bad guys, go to town because you have this big, huge pool of money that good intentions to get it out to the people that need it, but they're like, okay, open season. So they're stealing people's identities, filing for unemployment. And they were just they wanted to get the money out into the economy because of the situation. So the particular unemployment case, which started in January of 2021, we're still working on it. It's close to 500 subpoenas on this case. We're up to probably 140, 150 cases cleared by arrest. Probably 20 search warrants. The initial search warrants we did, we recovered $100,000 in cash and 2 illegal handguns. Now the thing to remember, the identity theft crook These are your organized crime gang members that are doing this. This is all gang members that did this particular case. So, remember, so for the purposes of this lecture, what you need to remember is whenever you hear a stimulus package being rolled out on the federal level, be very, very aware and check on your identity, make sure your stuff is all in order, right? Because they'll steal your identity and apply for these benefits and receive the benefits in your name, right? Does that make sense to everybody? So remember that, when any time of these stimulus packages, that's a time to be more vigilant with your information. All right, so recovering from ID theft, again, prepare to be a victim. Check your accounts as much as you possibly can, report it right away, right? If it does occur, call the merchants where it happened, explain what happened, close those compromised accounts, change your passwords, and then call the credit bureaus and dispute any false information that's on your credit reports. Now, the credit bureaus, each year, you can get a free credit report from each one of the reporting bureaus. It's annualcreditreport.com, and you have 3 credit bureaus, Experian, Equifax, and TransUnion. So what we suggest is January you do one of them, June you do the second one, and towards the end of the year you do the third one. So you cover all 3 bureaus, and you can look at the credit report and just dispute anything on there that doesn't belong.
There's no money involved yet.
Right.
So I'd like to know that. And then I called the 3 financial businesses, and I put a freeze now on my account. But then, like a month or so later, someplace else, they opened an account by name. And I'm very careful. I don't do that.
Bank account? The second place.
Second bank account, another savings account, but I pulled up, she said, and they said me something that said, they knew if it was a fraud, and so they caught it because I had called.
Well, security freeze doesn't cover your bank account, it only covers credit, right?
Right.
And only covers your new credit. So if I steal your identity and I go to the Mercedes dealership and I want to go take a car loan out, when they call up to check the credit, it's frozen, you can't do anything, right? But it doesn't stop me, remember I talked about before, taking over existing accounts? The security freeze doesn't stop me from doing that.
I asked her, I said, how is this open? And I'm in another state, how is this
Online.
open? She said, it's opened online. I said, well, what do you need? What information do you need to open it? My name, my date of birth, they have my social security card. I don't know what to do at this point, I put a freeze on my account on that, but I don't know, I don't know.
Again, unfortunately, not much you can do about that, because all of our information is out there.
Yeah.
It's out there somewhere. And unfortunately, you just have to be on top of it. Anytime something happens, address it. Like if you get something in the mail from a bank from out of state,
Yep.
don't act like it's junk mail and just throw it away.
No.
Because now what happens is they're gonna use that as a mule account, what we call a mule account, where they're gonna funnel money through that. The next thing you know, wait a minute. What's that? No, so if you get something from a bank, like it looks like a statement or something from an out-of-state bank or bank you don't have, open it and look what it is, and it says, oh, welcome to such and such bank, get on the phone and call them, right? Don't just say, hey, junk mail, and throw it away. Check it and make sure, right? Because you may get, sometimes you get the welcome letter from the bank, it'll say, hey, welcome to PNC Bank, which is in Pittsburgh, right? Welcome, well, I don't have an account there, so you call them up and see what happened, right?
I have a question. Does Lifetime that work?
Yes. Yes.
Lifeline?
LifeLock is a very good product. All the credit bureaus have their own monitoring system. They'll have it, you just have to say, if you want to pay the $29.99 a month or whatever it is, but it is very good. They are very good. Yes, ma'am.
I have a company that monitors my stuff all clear. And I've had them for many years, and they monitor credit card numbers, social security number, passport, medical ID, everything. And I check that every day to make sure, even my email account, everything is all on there.
Yep.
Well, mostly everything is all on there.
There's a lot of good monitoring service.
I pay for that every month.
Yeah, it's a paid service. Yes,
This
ma'am.
might be worth mentioning, during the lockdown, the COVID lockdown, my refrigerator started to go. So bottom line is everything was done online or whatever at that point, couldn't go into the stores. So I nobody called me. All of a sudden, I get a phone call. It's Chase Bank. We didn't get quite, the whole thing didn't go through. I'm thinking, that would never happen. He said, can you give me the information? I said, I don't feel comfortable doing that. He said, well, you know what you can do? You know the number on the back of your card? You can call that and they'll verify it. I knew at that point. And the reason why they do that, when I called my bank, obviously, it wasn't the bank, it wasn't PC Richards, everything had gone through it, is because you're very comfortable saying, oh, the guy says to me, call the 800 number and you'll know it's me. Yeah. Because I'm thinking, why would we do that? So apparently that's just another part of the scam.
Yes.
Crazy, right?
Remember, they're trying to separate you from your money, and they'll do anything they can to do it. Yes, ma'am?
But she's saying it's the number on the back of the credit card.
That's fine. No, she said they try to scam her by saying, oh, just call it on the back of the credit card, be fine. And then your response would be, oh, it must be okay, because they're telling me to call the number.
All right. I think that's it. Thank you very much, everybody. Well, if you have other questions, we'll be around. You can ask us. We really appreciate your attention. You guys have a good day.